Hi everyone.
Hi guys.
Lovely to see you again. Today is another kind of one of these red letter days, as I've mentioned before. A new house, completely brand new. I hadn't even heard of it until fairly recently, but there was maybe one name in particular that certainly piqued our interest, wasn't there? And maybe some more. Who do we have?
Well, so this is the house of Azman, and I should explain that we were contacted last year, about November last year, by Hussein Khan, who's the kind of the owner and the brains behind the brand, and they sent us. He sent us a sample of their first fragrance, 2 Moments After a Kiss. And I'm just going to be completely honest and say that I opened it and then I lost it.
He doesn't mean he lost his marbles.
No, I actually. So that's just being completely honest. Yeah. And then I saw the brand talking about their new releases, which have happened this year. And one was by Prin Lomas, one was by Milgram Matos, and I looked at those notes. I thought,
both fantastic.
Actually, they sound really good, and I really wish I tried the one that they sent to me and I lost. So I ordered a sample set. So here is the sample set, which we paid for. So this is a Dubai-based house, and Azman means hours or moments in Arabic. Yeah. On the website it says they are reimagining oud-based perfumes through a novel approach. So three of these fragrances, we're going to talk about 4 fragrances here, the 4 that they've released so far. 3 of them are oud-based, the other one is not. So I would say that these they feel like they're catering for a Western audience. Okay. So I don't think we are. Occasionally we've reviewed more artisanal oud fragrances.
Yeah.
These are not those. Sorry, I'm just trying to read the labels to find the first one.
Because oud is still a sort of touchy subject, isn't it, for the mass market?
Well, it's become incredibly popular, incredibly in vogue. Yeah. But these
done in a certain way.
It does not feel like we are trying, Ensar Oud, Bortnikov, Original Story. It feels these are slightly more westernized takes on oud, I would say, even though they are not all Western perfumers. We've got 2 Thai perfumers. One that we know very well, Prin Lomas. One that we don't know quite so well. So here, let's get stuck in. So I have had these samples for a couple of weeks. I've been trying them and testing them. Here are my pages and pages of notes.
Very well there.
Pages of notes I've made. Joe has not tried them at all. So you're going to get his first impressions, and then I'll talk about the dry down a little bit. So this is I Am Darkness by the perfumer. Sorry about the pronunciation. Nut Veshasatat.
Yeah, I mean,
I believe.
Sorry, but
apologies. Please correct me.
It's a very beautiful name, though.
Yeah. So he is, I believe, a Thai-based perfumer. I see from Facebook he seems to be friends with Prin Lomas as well.
Okay, he's a great guy. I can understand that.
I just want to say, I really strongly felt when I wore this, the fragrance is called I Am Darkness, and I feel this fragrance is all about brightness.
I mean, the opening certainly that I'm getting a big, bright, happy, explosive.
Yeah, I really got an almost effervescent explosion of kind of spice and incense. It's not a big fragrance.
Sort of orange sherbet as well, or something.
Yes, and the other thing I think you kind of get with this incense is elemi, and elemi is a kind of I guess I suppose a resin which has an incense quality but quite a bright citrusy quality.
Could be. Do you know the little Barocca things that you dissolve in water?
Yes, yeah.
I'm getting a little bit of Barocca.
Yeah. So when I first tried this, I sprayed it and I saw the name I Am Darkness and thought, have I got this right? Because this is the least dark fragrance it's bright. I put elemi, incense and citrus combined, and I really get that kind of, as you said, like effervescent, like those tablets you put in drinks, and it kind of bubbles and spills up.
But it's quite serious as well at the same time.
Yeah, well, that's
there's
the
a little
thing.
undertone already creeping through of something.
It does feel, and this is such a boring way of describing perfume, but from the outset it feels very natural. We're not getting something which is boom, bang, bang, like smack you in the face. You feel this is already quite a serious fragrance, even though it is energetic and bright.
It's almost like a stand-up comic that's actually quite depressed, you know.
Yeah, possibly.
Behind the scenes.
And you start to get a little bit of fur, which kind of adds a little bit of kind of darkness to that incense. But I get this, as I said, I get this kind of searing light, this real feeling of brightness and energy.
Absolutely.
Which I was slightly reminded of some of the Prin Lomros. He does this really great aldehydic incense accord, which he uses quite a lot. And I got a hint of that.
There's a little hint of Marcello as well.
Yeah.
That slightly cherry, boozy thing.
I also, there's a slight soapiness as well. Do you get like this kind of aldehydic kind of soapiness?
Just creeping in now.
And then after a while, I do get. So this is, you know, as described at the beginning, an oud fragrance, and you're not getting. I don't think you get any oud when you first spray, but eventually I do start to get some oud, and I was really reminded of Om by Centauri, which is that quite uplifting, incensey.
I've got some in my bag.
Yeah, meditative.
Yeah.
Kind of, and do you see? It still feels like quite a serious fragrance, doesn't it?
It feels very much now like a slightly medicinal, like temple-based aromatherapy experience.
Yeah, and I think 100%.
It smells more like a room than a perfume.
Yeah, and that's absolutely, and you know, because as I said, it feels very natural.
Yeah,
it doesn't feel like a kind of Mark Buxton, Comme des Garçons kind of incense accord or a Bertrand Duchefort incense. It feels more kind of natural.
I'm not a big fan of that incense accord either. I've gone completely the other way with things like Incense Avignon now, and I find the ISOE Super. I don't like incense being quite as persistent. And
but that's not what you've got here, is it? I mean,
no.
This fruity quality, I feel, is then actually kind of increased as I wore it on skin. There became a bit more of a kind of juicy, fruity, floral. Again, which felt quite natural underneath that peppered incense.
Yeah, there's a really nice balance between the things, isn't there? There's a balance between this slight fruity, boozy, plummy thing.
Absolutely, yeah.
But then, it is balanced by this serious, peppered, slightly gently spiced, gently spiced.
I mean, again, come back to this kind of feeling of, it feels like a serious spread. Now, are you
dominating?
I think I'm starting on cards to get a tiny hint of the oud, which is not a funky oud at all. There's just some warm, complex woodiness which is coming in. I say these. I tried it on skin, and these are my notes I wore from a couple of wearings over a period of hours. I was reminded. I've put a little.
Not quite getting oud yet, but I don't know what I'm. I don't know quite what I'm
smelling
for.
But you're not looking for a kind of like Hindi, kind of funky. No. It's just a complex woodiness, I would say.
Yeah.
In my notes, I put reminded slightly of Mandarava. It's not as big or theatrical as Mandarava, but that feeling of incense and complex florals.
It's very smooth, though.
It's incredibly.
I'm really impressed by the
really
smooth
elegant.
segues
It's really sophisticated. It really seems confident. Perfume making.
And quite understated.
Understated, yeah, absolutely.
It takes a lot of confidence and courage to do something understated but brilliantly.
Yeah, 100%.
And we've changed on that regard as well.
Yeah.
I think once upon a time, maybe both of us would have found this a little bit like, okay.
Yeah, and I think maybe
we're appreciating more.
I think you've got a hard job because I wore it on skin and I wore it a few times and I loved kind of delving into my arm to kind of smell it and see how it developed. Initially, I think
I wish I was made of card. It would be so accurate.
Initially, I was almost put off because of the name. Like, I am darkness. I just don't get any darkness whatsoever.
Yeah, is it sort of meant to be quite ironic? Are you darkness looking at light and wishing you could be light? Is it, is it something?
Maybe.
Is this like a filmic?
I just throughout,
inspired thing,
almost throughout the whole experience, I get this this bright incense and kind of like pepper, and initially I get this aldehydic quality, which may be aldehyde C12MNA. I'm a big fan of that. But you can get a natural aldehydic quality, but this was, it had this almost spiritual quality to it. A great feeling of confidence that, as you said, that you could not try and show your hand too much. Slightly.
Do you know what I'm getting here a little bit? Not in terms of smell, but in terms of a text that keeps popping into my head. And I think it's the opposite of what I mean. But is it Auden that wrote Hymn to Saint Cecilia?
Yeah.
I cannot grow, I have no shadow to run away from, I only play. I'm getting a little bit like, I am darkness, I have no light to enjoy.
Yeah. I only play.
But maybe there's something about wanting to be in the light.
Yeah. I enjoy...
There's a struggle between sort of good and evil or something like that.
Or maybe it's taking something like oud, which we don't generally think of dark and heavy, and he's made it very light and bright and uplifting.
Yeah.
I
really enjoyed that a lot, I have to say. Ooh.
I loved wearing it on skin. So that was I Am Darkness. That's $190 for 50 ml. So 3 of these fragrances, $190.
EDP, X-ray.
EDP, yeah, EDP. So, but we're now going to try the one.
Eau de Parfum, as someone probably says in the States.
Let's try something.
Oh no, they say day, don't they? Bleu de Chanel.
Bleu de Chanel. This is not Bleu de Chanel. This is.
We should do that at some point, though.
We should. Killer Vavoom by Miguel Matos. So this is the cheaper of the 3. So this is $165 for 50 ml, because I suppose it's a little bit cheaper.
I'm just going to write down on the card what these are,
Good
because
idea.
I always forget, and then my nose goes into darkness. Oh no!
Goes into darkness.
Oh, okay. Something massive has just come across my nose.
Yeah. So, in our last video, we tried some fragrances, or in our recent video, we tried some fragrances from Sarah Baker, including our first introduction to the works of Miguel Matos, of which you expect something theatrical, slightly vintage feeling, and something. Wow.
Yeah.
So, here you go. Killer Vavoom. This is chalk and cheese with the other one. You know, this other one, which is very understated incense spiritual. This is big, bold, boozy, chocolate, boozy, iris.
I get chocolate in a cardboard glass.
I can see that.
And booze, the cognac.
There's plummy, boozy, rich, almost like a very kind of cherried wine, almost bordering on kind of like cherry liqueur, kind of like. Yeah. Maybe not cherries, but you know, like
you couldn't have many of these after dinner.
Like a fortified wine.
Yeah.
Maybe just a kind of port.
Do you know what I recognise here, though? It's not the same smell at all, but I recognise the same hallmark of something that kind of immediately states its case, like that banana thing that he did.
Jungle Jezebel, yeah.
Yeah, again, immediately it says, right, even if this is a sleight of hand and we're going to go in a different direction, for now, I'm going to give you this.
Exactly. I mean, I
really like that.
It'd be interesting to. We're very new to his works, but it's certainly, I get the impression, exactly as you said, that's like, here you go, I'm going to make you think.
Yeah, it's really good. It's really bold.
It's big, bold.
And he also, it smells like someone who loves perfume.
Yeah, I mean, I feel there's, as well as these big notes, you feel there's a big nod to the past, even though I can't for 1 minute think of a boozy, chocolatey iris vintage fragrance. It's somehow...
That thing we smelled at the Osmotek, that sort of forbidden fruit, whatever it was.
Yeah.
That was, it wasn't boozy, but that was the sort of big chocolate orange or taboo.
Yeah, it has that kind of Christmassy orange.
But this has got way more kahunas, as Singer said to me the other day.
Yeah. I mean, in my notes, I've also said the dry down is much better. So the opening is quite big and wild. I have to say, I do like the opening. I prefer it to like the banana-iness of a Jungle Jezebel. But the dry down is
really good.
Really, really sexy. So I basically, after about a couple of hours, I just get this big musky journey, and there are kind of various musks. The kind of I kind of get this ambretti sweet fruity musk, and another musk which feels more like a kind of deer musk. I don't think it is real. Obviously, it's not real deer musk, but more of your traditional kind of deer musk accord, like muscanone, that kind of musk.
This is absolutely awesome.
Yeah,
I love this.
But honestly, the dry down just becomes.
This is the darkness. This is
Yeah, I said it's a filthy musk orgy. Yeah. That's what my notes say about the dry down.
Yeah, but tell us about the perfume, not about your. I don't know what you did on Tuesday.
The chocolate and plumminess continues to swim around during the dry down I've written. I have written the notes out. I don't often write the notes out, but osmanthus as well, which is giving that kind of leathery fruitiness. Which
because that can be quite animalic.
And again, I'm not always a big fan of osmanthus, and I don't think I'm great at identifying it. But I think if I said there's a fruity leatheriness, I think
would totally believe you. I have to write down again on the card here because I love this.
Yeah.
So this is Killer
Vavoom.
I like the perfume. I don't like the name. I have to say.
Right.
I think that's absolutely fantastic.
It's good, isn't it? How different is it from
really
the first fragrance we tried?
Chalk and cheese. Quite literally, actually.
Chalk. Yeah. Let's try.
Now, having smelled the first one,
it must be difficult to.
The first one is obliterated by this.
But I've got to say I really enjoyed I'm Darkness on Skin. I enjoyed all of these.
This is really good perfume making. Even from the top. I don't even need to wear that on skin to know that I'm going to enjoy that.
Let's try.
I'm going to buy one of these this afternoon.
Majnoon by Prin Lomros.
Majnoon. So the big risk here is that I love this even more.
Majnoon means crazy in Arabic. And this is the brand refers to it as a double oud scent because it has two types of oud, Trat, which is a Thai slightly fruity oud, and Assam, which we expect to be a little bit funkier.
Now, cherry Coke.
Yes, massively. So I get a massive kind of cherry Coke. I get a kind of cherry vibe generally.
Yeah.
I get a wine.
Wow.
I get the coffee is listed as a note, and this is. I expected this to be a coffee fragrance, but I feel it's a red wine fragrance.
Yeah,
or
I can see what you mean. Yeah.
And it's interesting. So some kind of Trat oud has a kind of fresh red berry quality, and I almost wonder if Prin has taken that quality and kind of gone with it.
Yeah.
In this red fruit. And then I was trying to get the coffee association. I was wondering that you sometimes get, natural processed coffee, unwashed coffee, which has that slightly fermented fruity quality.
Yeah.
And I kind of get that here, not massively fermented. I don't get loads of funk, but I certainly get a red fruit quality all the way through this.
Have you ever had civet coffee?
Yeah.
Is there any similarity to that with just the edges? I've not tried it for such a long time. I can't remember.
But I've actually had non-civet coffee, which is this unwashed natural processed coffee, which has more funk than the civet coffee I've tried. The one thing
it's spicy as well, actually.
There's a lovely bit of spice. The one thing I will say about this, two things, is when I wore it on skin, it lasted for a very, very long time, and it was absolutely as smooth as silk.
Yeah.
All the way through. If you've seen our channel, we are big fans of Prin's work, and sometimes you get
we love his work.
These big wow things going on, these aldehydic incense opens, these big florals. Whereas when I was wearing this, I was just covered in this silk sheet of kind of chocolatey, winey oudiness. It made me think something like Oud Silk Mood by Francis Kurjan, if that was done with better materials.
Yeah. This is a different league, isn't it? I don't like any of those.
No, but I suppose what I'm referring to is the level of smoothness that you get from that kind of French perfumery, done with more, much more expensive natural natural feeling or natural smelling ingredients.
Again, the balance is so great. The sort of slight sweet, funky, fruity thing is so balanced by the kind of serious, dry, slight woodsy.
Yeah, dry. I think there's a dry woodsy incense, slight incense in a different way to the other one, but not bright incense, but a dry incense. I also, when I wore it on skin, there was a lovely rosy quality, which kind of had a kind of slightly soapy, rosy quality, which segued in and out of that red fruit.
The chocolate orange thing has gone now; it's subsided, but it's getting more concentrated, more boozy. This is just on card, though. When something is this interesting on card,
it's really. But what I did not get, I was just really confused because it speaks about it as a kind of coffee fragrance, and Prin has done coffee a lot. He tends to have done it in his Strangers range, which is a slightly cheaper range. He's done a coffee called a lot, and I just don't get that coffee whatsoever.
Burning Ben, all those guys.
I honestly wouldn't pick out coffee. I couldn't pick out coffee.
I think it's just a hint. I think maybe there's just this hint of this slight darkness that I could, if I really picture it, I can get like a little drop, like a drop of espresso, just to give it.
But I still, if I'm to have an image, it is red velvet sheets. It is like crimson velvet sheets, like dark, deep red silk sheets, gliding everywhere. Do you want to hear the notes? I mean, we don't often read out notes.
That's so good.
Pomegranate, saffron, clove, nutmeg, cinnamon, coffee. Heart notes: champaca, rose, leather, tobacco, tonka, nagamotha, cypriol. Base notes: oud from Thailand, oud from India, Assam, patchouli, amber, incense, vanilla. Now, I think actually when you say that, you do get a bit of nutmeg and clove, don't you?
Yeah.
And saffron. Actually, I do get a bit of saffron.
Saffron,
I don't
that's what I was picking up in the opening a little bit.
But
once the shock of that had passed,
Yeah, it's great. But I mean, silky smooth. Do you not think?
Absolutely smooth as a baby's bum. I was getting confused about it. It wasn't the chocolate orange. It wasn't the chocolate orange here. It was the chocolate orange in the last one that had subsided. This started out as it meant to go on.
There's a slight bit of chocolate quality to this. I can envisage chocolate more than coffee.
A little slightly burnt Turkish delight.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. I think that there's that kind of rose saffron-y thing.
I think that's absolutely fantastic.
I don't know if I would have identified it as Prin.
No. I'm still all over this.
Killer Vavoom.
Oh.
Got one more.
What is it? It's reminding me of something that I used to be obsessed with.
I'm trying to think of a chocolatey iris. I'm a big fan of.
That's going to really bug me.
I think it's really interesting that the Killer Vavoom is the one which hasn't gone for oud, because I would have thought chocolate iris and oud would have been such a good combination.
Yeah, absolutely.
Instead, it's gone in a very much musky direction. Right, let's try one more. This is 2 minutes after the kiss.
I know what it is. It's not a perfume.
What is it?
I'll tell you. Well, I was in Italy in 2007 or 8, and there was this. It was really bizarre. There was this really nice Tony and Guy hair stuff that I had, but this really waxy, chalky stuff. It smelled really good, and I always remember thinking, I wish there was a perfume that had a bit of this in it.
Okay.
Don't know what it is, but it's in here, and I love it, and it reminds me of happy times.
So here we are, 2 minutes. 2 minutes after the kiss. So this is by Cristiano Conali. So he is an IFF perfumer. It was the first fragrance released by the house. So he did B by Zoologist.
Love that.
And Romanza by Mask Milano. So this is a rose oud fragrance in which I think the rose and the oud are not the most interesting materials. I think there's another note in here, which is more interesting and more enjoyable. So I think on first spray, there's a slight feel of a slightly generic rose oud, a slightly slave fragrance.
Just a hint.
But then I said, but then it gets more interesting. That's what I've written in my notes. So there's a bit of funk from that oud, isn't there? But what you're going to get very, very soon on the card, which I think is the interesting thing, is the cardamom. And this green cardamom becomes, for me, a really big player. So apparently it's Guatemalan. So I now get it. Take it away from your nose. Give yourself a break.
It actually is already poking
This
through.
green cardamom is really beautiful, and it's what makes this fragrance stand out, I think.
Yeah, it's actually really, really good.
It's really good.
My very first smell, can I be really honest? The very, very first smell, I thought, I don't like this.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I think the very first smell of like, I've smelled this before. Yada yada yada. It's some kind of mid-range rose oud, but then this.
What, a bit of juniper or something poking its head out.
Well, but is that just the kind of cardamom that has that?
Could be, couldn't it?
Yeah, I mean the kind of slightly has it got juniper? I doesn't listen to it, but certainly the impression of juniper, I can certainly see why you get.
I think the cardamom will be doing something of that.
The rose in this has eventually a kind of slightly kind of soapy quality, but I love all the way the cardamom has both a slightly medicinal quality, which you often expect from cardamom, but also a more like green herbaceous quality.
Yeah, absolutely.
Really, really lovely.
Slight hint of sweetness as well, just enough of something to stop it from being too bitter green.
Yeah.
Herbal medicinal.
I mean, overall,
a little smile in the background.
There is something about this fragrance which feels like a very familiar Western rose oud. Do you know what I mean? Like we're not. Yeah. It's not a groundbreaking rose oud, and it's not an artisanal rose oud when there are massive quantities of expensive naturals on material. I don't think that's what this is. There's something quite familiar about it. But I was so pleased when I got the cardamom, and I thought actually this is taking me in a new.
That's such a nice thing, isn't it? When you do smell something familiar, and it just has a little hint of something else that can lure you in. I think like a piece of music or a film.
Absolutely.
Think,
something
there's a little
familiar.
detail
But actually, I haven't
before.
seen that before. I haven't heard that before. I haven't smelled that before.
Yeah.
So what?
Really good.
I mean, with this kind of slight feeling of familiarity, so they do this thing which is quite popular now of listing an aroma chemical. So they list a brosinide, and I don't know, I haven't smelt a brosinide, but I have smelt norlimbinol, and norlimbinol is something which you would recognise from a lot of rose ouds. It's a very, very, very persistent, very long-lasting woody amber aroma chemical, which I think it's also in some oud, synthetic oud bases. And I think the thing when you first spray, you got a bit of that like I kind of recognise that, and even if I just go, I think you can smell it. There's a hint of some kind of woody amber which you recognise from lots of oud fragrances, and that it's interesting. They list it here as brosinide. It smells to me a bit like norlimbinol, and you get it right at the beginning, all the way through the mid, and at the end. It just kind of goes on forever, and it doesn't necessarily. I don't think it does overpower. There's enough other interest, but I was just a bit disappointed that it was a. It felt like it had somehow become a bit safe and a bit mainstream. The fact that it was there.
I think sometimes when a perfume has a note, I found it recently. When something is very persistent, that sometimes my mind plays a little trick where it crosses over from being art to being in the department that some people mistakenly think that perfumes are sort of toiletry products. Do you know what I mean?
Functional.
I mean, this isn't that at all.
No.
But there are sometimes perfumes that have this real persistence.
Yeah.
And I think I don't need to smell absolutely the same as when I put it on 12 hours later.
It was interesting I mean, and this is, I really like this, and I would definitely wear this. And maybe it sounds like we're being a bit kind of overcritical. But
it's really nice. I
like the cardamom a lot.
Yeah.
And this is definitely, I definitely prefer this to most things I've smelt from like Xerjov.
Yeah.
You know, if we're comparing it to that kind of level of rose oud, and it's all MFK, you know, all of those other kind of big Western brands, I definitely prefer it to that.
There's personality here.
Yeah, and the cardamom, for me, is coming through as the best quality kind of material in it. I'm really enjoying it. I have to say, I don't think this is as interesting as the other 3 fragrances we have smelt.
No, absolutely, I agree with you.
And it's a shame. When you smell I Am Darkness now, I think you will struggle to smell it, given the other things, which is a shame because I really liked it and I liked wearing it a lot.
I mean, we've obliterated our noses a little bit, but
well, that's why I did say we would start kind of lighter and get bigger.
But I know Vavoom will still be doing its thing.
Yeah, but you already. Can you feel you're starting to get to the musky stage on the Killer Vavoom, and definitely on skin you get it. And I do think that the mid and dry down is better than the opening actually on Killer Vavoom. Majnoon.
Yeah, awesome.
But this was you get quite a lot of that leatheriness, kind of slightly saffron leather, don't you? That saffron leather, that modern. But when I wore it on skin, Majnoon was just long-lasting, silky smooth, cherried, chocolatey, rich, slightly oud.
And the opening was coming out again for me there. I got the cherry coke thing again. I mean, that's a real mark of a great perfume to me. If I can go back and the opening is still throwing its weight around.
Coming back to 2 minutes after the kiss, I do really like it. I love the cardamom. I mean, I'm a big cardamom fan anyway. It's really good. It's really
nice. It's familiar.
Yeah, it's familiar
in a nice way.
I do like the cardamom though.
I think they're all just really good. I can't really find a lot of fault with any of them, to be honest. They all have personality.
If you were going to buy one, what would it be?
Vavoom, all the way. I'm in love with that.
Yeah.
I can't really explain why. It's just it speaks to me.
Yeah.
I mean, also Prin. It's kind of a tie, but I think for me, that just hit me straight away, and it took me somewhere, and it reminded me,
something has an impact, has an effect. I've got to say,
such good perfume making.
I'm really Into the Darkness. I think it's a little bit kind of tricky for you because you're just smelling it on card and you're smelling it amongst the bigger fragrances.
Yeah. I need to try it on skin.
I found it kind of hugely rewarding. But certainly, the 3 newer releases, especially, I think, are really good. And 2 minutes after the kiss is a really, really, really great fragrance, even if it's not one I think I would necessarily buy.
I think the thing with After the Kiss is it's a little bit well behaved. Which is
funny to say, considering I think it's the biggest of these 4 fragrances.
Yeah.
But I think when you say well behaved, what you don't want to put words into your mouth, but is that it's kind of familiar, that you feel slightly as if.
It's got just a slight hint of textbook.
Yeah.
About it, and not that it's boring or that it doesn't have personality, but I've smelt it before, and I don't know if a little hint of cardamom
possibly
is enough to make me.
But it's interesting that comes from an IFF perfumer, so one of those big oil companies.
Yeah.
As opposed to even Prin, who's kind of he's not self-taught, but he's not one of the kind of the big oil companies. But I, as I said to you when I worked through the samples, I really enjoyed all 4 of these.
Yeah, they're fantastic. They're really.
I think
wonderful.
They are not, in the scheme of things, $190 for 50 mil. It's not cheap.
What's that in pounds? Like 170?
It's like 140. No, about 140 pounds.
For
50 mil.
I think that's very reasonable.
I think it's certainly not unreasonable, and I like these.
Yeah, I think very rarely does a Discovery set actually really live up to the name?
Yeah.
Discovery. I think we've really discovered some great things there.
Maybe it's a nice thing because there are only 4 fragrances. There isn't a dud among them.
No.
Good stuff.
And it's in a set.
And we discovered them.
Yeah, so.
It's a win-win.
Yeah. I really, thank you for introducing
So if you've tried them, let us know what you think.
Yeah.
But until next time.
Bye.
Happy sniffing.